So, as you can see behind me, absolutely, well, I'm not going to say stunning because I use the word stunning too much. Wonderful conditions behind me at Haukland Bay here. Came here last year, very, very different conditions this year to what we had last year. This was just a sea of white coming down here. You couldn't see any of this rocky area that I'm stood on. I'm just going to talk you through the shot that I'm looking at in a sec, but I just want to go through a couple of the, I guess, challenges, if you can call it that, in a location like this that I've faced a little this week. We're right under a high pressure at the minute. Relentless blue skies every day. Now today it's nice because the clouds rolled in. And the problem with that a little bit, especially if you come to a place like this where you're shooting a lot of seascapes, you want a bit more action with the tide. Now we've had really, really slow tides. It's another one today because the winds are really low. So what I'm trying to do is just adapt my plans a little bit, and rather than going for the classic sort of wave action stuff that you might see here, I'm trying to use these rocky foregrounds to build the basis of my compositions. Now, this area here, ideal for that. We've got low tide at the minute as well, so I don't even have the option of working with the tide so much. So I'm just working my way around these cracks and just finding ones that best line up with that background behind me. Now the sun, I've got to work quite quickly here because as the sun's rising, it's going to start rising into thicker cloud, and then we're probably going to lose light on the scene behind me. So I'm going to get cracking and see what I can come up with. Okay, so I'm just going to take you for a little wander along this area just to give you a bit more kind of background to my thinking as to how I'm going to compose some of the shots down here. Now, I have already got one set up over there, which I'll talk you through in a minute, but just to give you an idea of my thought process now, you can see over there we've got a lit peak in the distance, and then on the other side of the bay we've got, well, a bit like a dragon's back over there. So you've got multiple options here in terms of composition, but this rocky area around here, what I'm looking for is some nice lines, repeating patterns, anything that's going to sort of point me towards either of these peaks. Now, you can see there that there's plenty of stuff to work with there. And then over here, near to where I've got set up, you can see some of the lines sort of pointing the way out towards those peaks over there. Now, I mentioned about the tides. Yeah, the tides haven't got up very high. So one of the options I would have liked to try to work with here is rock pools. But with it being a low tide, I haven't really got that option. So it's a little trickier than it looks, but certainly not a problem, and plenty of stuff to work with here. So I'll talk you through that shot in a moment, but for the time being, I'm just going to try and find something else, just so I've got an alternative, because I don't really want to sort of stick with the one shot. I'd like to get a couple here, and yeah, see what I can come up with. So, this shot that I've got set up, I was talking before about lines and rock pools, and it's tricky to get both of them to marry up here because, as I was saying about the tide not coming up so high, there's not that many rock pools around here. This one though is quite a small one, but it works pretty well. A lot of the coastline that you'll see around here, a lot of the rock pools you'll see lots of really vibrant colours, and this one works pretty well. It's almost a sort of blood red colour, and then little hints of green and yellow in there. Ideal really for using a polarizer. So I've got the case polarizer on. I've also got a 6-stop filter on just to take the edge off the ripples on the water. It's very, very gentle, this tide. So rather than having that being a bit of a distraction, I've just gone for a little bit of smooth water there. But yeah, compositionally, I'm in vertical format. We've got this lovely, well, you've got 3 converging lines. You've got the 2 in the middle coming out of the rock pool, and then you've got 1 on either side, left and right, and they kind of meet together in a point, and then point towards the end of as I said, what looks like a dragon's back in the distance there. So all in all, I think this composition works pretty well. We've got that lovely side light now, and I've managed to get this shot in the bag before the sun starts getting too high. So here it is on the screen. Let me know what you think. Okay, now I've always maintained doing these videos that are compromised to my stills. That's not going to be the case for everyone who videos on here, but for me personally, I do find it a bit of a faff sometimes. And this here was a case in point, because while I was doing all the B-roll and the drone footage around this shot here, the clouds parted in the opposite direction where I wanted to set up a second shot, and now the light's too harsh and it doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is just spend a little bit of time working the compositions here with a view potentially to coming back here in the next couple of days, or if there's an aurora. Now I've just had an alert on my phone for an aurora tonight. So if the clouds are, well, if there's cloudless skies tonight, I'd like to be prepared for a shot anyway, because there's nothing worse than being out shooting the aurora and having nothing kind of planned. So yeah, potentially want to come back to here. Now, what was fortunate there is I didn't move the tripod, but the shot that I had set up, as the sun got up, the clouds over the top of the mountains here started to light up a little bit and give me a bit more texture. So I've taken a second shot just as an alternative. I'll put that on the screen here. Let me know what you think if it's any better. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up at this location, and I'll check back in with you a bit later on, probably this evening, where I'll be shooting something different, and hopefully these nice conditions will continue. So folks, it's now later on in the afternoon, and I've been driving around kind of chasing the weather a little bit, trying to figure out what's going to be the best location to shoot. And all of my past experience here tells me that here at Vikten, this is going to give me the best opportunity given the cloud. Now, looking at the conditions, this could either be really, really good or a complete dud, one way or the other. The sun in front of me here is, at the minute, it's tucked up in some thick cloud, but as it's going to drop along the horizon, there is quite a few clear patches for it to fall into. So I'm hoping, you can see the mountain behind me on my right, that's going to get front lit with some nice evening light. That's the plan. Anyway, a bit like this morning at Haukland, loads and loads of opportunities to work with big foregrounds here. Again, low tide, so I haven't got the tide to kind of work with. So in some respects, this is quite challenging, but as I say, plenty to work with. So I'm going to get cracking and find something to shoot. Right, this pocket 3, I'm going to try and trust the active track here and get away from the camera a bit, just to show you what I'm working with. Now, these foreground patterns are probably even better than at Haukland this morning. And what I've been doing, and what I know from past experience, is you need to get all the way to the back of this sort of flat ledge, and then just slowly but surely walk forward, analysing all these little different foregrounds here. And you can see some of these areas, lovely shapes to them, but it's a case of will they balance and will they kind of push me forward to the main subject in the image, which is the mountains. So all I've been doing, as I say, is just slowly walking forward here and trying to find the best ones. I've picked out 2 or 3 that I think work, so we'll head over there and have a look at this first one. Okay, so I've got my shot set up just over here. I'll show you what I'm looking at. Now, I like this composition because we've got some nice repeating elements, basically, from right to left. 3 diagonal lines pointing you straight to the mountain, which you can't really go wrong with. The tricky thing with compositions here that I find, and a lot of landscape photography tends to be a compromise. The tricky thing I find here is that, and quite often with a lot of scenes around here actually, is that you struggle to find elements to connect the midground to the background. They can be very sort of foreground, background, and nothing in the middle. And what I've been finding when I've been walking around is I'm finding a lot of great foreground elements, but nothing to give you any flow through the image. Your eye kind of just stops at the foreground, and then you've got a mountain in the background. So while it would be very easy to take that type of image, you know, we're going for a bit better than that, hopefully. So anyway, the reason I've gone for this is because these foreground elements stretch right out into the midground area, and then we've got a nice little bit of separation with the water on the left, and then obviously the main subject, the mountain at the top. Now I'm looking behind me, and the clouds don't look too promising now, to be honest. It might be one of these things where it's a complete dud, but for the sake of the video, I'll obviously show you how this pans out. I mean, even as it is now, we've got some really nice clouds. So I'm just gonna hang around for 5 minutes, and while I'm waiting for the light, hopefully, to appear, I'm gonna just check out a couple more compositions. So I'll check back in with you in a bit when hopefully it's improved a little. Okay, so we're finally getting a little bit of light on the top of the mountain. I'll just take a shot here. I don't know if this is going to be as good as I'm going to get, to be honest, because the cloud situation over there is really 50-50, to be honest. It looks like I might just be within range to get some proper light on the front of the mountain here rather than just the top. But if this is all I get, to be honest, I'll be quite happy with this, because the composition I think really works. Settings, God, do you really want to know them? 22mm, taking a 3-shot bracket, and as I was saying earlier, playing around with the polarizer on and off. I think the unpolarized shots rather will be a little better with the reflected colour in the puddles. But yeah, this is working out pretty nice now. So I'm going to grab these shots. I'll probably try and grab another one if I can, if I'm quick. And I'll leave this video here. Now, I did say I wasn't going to do a third video from here, but having looked back at the stuff I've actually videoed rather than the stuff I've just shot without doing any vlogging, I think, given I've got another 3 days left, it would be a shame not to do something with that. So I might get a third video out of this as well. So if I do put a third video out, please do watch it, because generally I know a lot of people switch off to series of videos from a location, but anyway, right, light's really peaking here, so I'm going to grab this. So keep liking and subscribing, and I'll catch you on the next one.